Throughout this lesson, we are going to investigate temperature and demonstrate its importance to meteorology. Temperature is defined as a measure of how hot or cold a substance is. Temperature can be measured on a variety of scales using many different instruments. The two most common scales we use to measure the temperature of a substance are Celsius and Fahrenheit. The Kelvin scale is rarely used in general aviation meteorology, but you may see it in scientific formulae. However, Celsius is the scale we use throughout the CD-ROM where appropriate. You may be required to convert from one temperature scale to another. To convert Fahrenheit into Celsius, simply minus 32 from the Fahrenheit value and then divide it by 1.8. To convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, simply multiply the Celsius value by 1.8 and add 32. Alternatively, there is a conversion scale for Fahrenheit and Celsius on your flight navigation computer. To convert Celsius into Kelvin, simply add 273. Temperature is measured using a thermometer. In meteorology, thermometers are usually housed in a Stevenson screen, giving a standard exposure to the atmosphere. However, there are many different types of thermometer. The one shown here is a thermograph. Similar to the barograph, it records temperature over time using a rotating drum. For measuring the variation of temperature through the atmosphere, meteorologists use satellite imaging, radiosonde balloonescence, and aircraft reports. All of these have their advantages and disadvantages. Let's now consider the practical implications of temperature in the atmosphere. Energy from the sun, or solar radiation as it is called, has a short wavelength, around 0.15 to 4 microns to be precise. The Earth's atmosphere is almost totally transparent to this incoming shortwave radiation. The incoming energy passes through the atmosphere with little effect. Only when solar radiation encounters clouds or reaches the Earth's surface does it have an impact. Clouds will reflect part of the incoming energy backwards, possibly out to space again. The rest will continue to the Earth's surface. In clear weather, around 85% of the Sun's original energy will reach the Earth's surface. Looking at the right-hand side of the diagram, we can see that some of the radiation is reflected and not absorbed by the Earth. If the surface has a high reflective factor, or albedo, such as snow or ice, a large part of the energy is reflected back up through the atmosphere. The darker the surface, the more of the sun's energy the surface absorbs, and is said to have a low albedo. Here we see different surfaces in order of reflectivity, highest at the top, lowest at the bottom. At the surface of the Earth, the sun's energy has its greatest effect. Here we see a simple close-up view of the process. Incoming shortwave solar radiation, or insolation as it is also known, leads to some evaporative processes of water and ice, but most energy is used in heating the surface on which it falls. The energy that is absorbed is then available to heat the Earth's atmosphere by other processes. The Earth continually radiates energy that it has previously absorbed. It is a relatively long-wave radiation between 4 and 80 microns, the radiation that is emitted warms the air above the Earth's surface. Apart from the ozone layer high in the atmosphere, which we shall look at later, this is the only source of heat energy for the atmosphere, and explains why temperature falls with height. Hence, the atmosphere is primarily heated from below, not from above. The Earth is the atmosphere's main energy source, not the Sun. So what happens to this energy as it is emitted from the Earth's surface? How does it heat the atmosphere? The most important process is where two of the constituents of the atmosphere, water vapour and carbon dioxide, absorb this long-wave radiation from the Earth. This then acts as a heat reservoir for the atmosphere, warming it up. This is the process called the greenhouse effect, and without it, the Earth would cool dramatically. There are other means by which heat is redistributed through the atmosphere. These are conduction, convection, advection, and latent heat release. Let's take a look at these in turn. Conduction is the simple process whereby heat is transferred from one body to another with which it is in contact. This diagram is a simple representation of the temperature change with height through the atmosphere. Notice the lowest layers, which are in direct contact with the Earth, are the warmest. If we look at a typical situation just after sunrise, this is how the temperature profile may look. Throughout the day, as the Earth's surface heats up, it warms the air in contact with it. Only the lowest layers of the atmosphere respond to this heating by conduction. At night, the Earth's surface temperature falls, since there is no incoming solar radiation. Via conduction, the Earth cools the air just above it. Here we see the cooling process and how the lowest layers of the atmosphere respond. This is why a surface temperature inversion can form. Because air is a poor conductor of heat energy, the air at higher levels retains its heat. The air cools at the surface, and this cooling spreads slowly upwards by conduction. The next process we are going to consider is convection. Convection is simply the way in which warmer, less dense air rises. Cooler, more dense air will tend to sink, replacing the rising pockets of warmer air. We see this effect on many days when cumulus cloud forms. This process transfers heat energy up into the atmosphere and is most effective the more active the convection. In fact, with deep cumulonimbus clouds, some heat energy is taken right up to the tropopause. We saw this effect demonstrated very well in the pressure systems lesson when we discussed small-scale depressions. Advection is the horizontal movement of air into another region. The nature of advection may be warm or cold, and can occur at any height within the atmosphere. Nevertheless, it has an impact on the heat distribution of the atmosphere. Here we see examples of warm and cold advection. Finally, let's take a look at latent heat processes. Latent heat has a major impact on the heat distribution of the atmosphere. Here we see water vapour having been evaporated from a moist or wet ground surface. As air rises, perhaps due to convection, the air cools. It may eventually form clouds as the water vapour condenses. This change of state from gas to liquid releases latent heat, which warms the atmosphere around it. Note, however, that downdrafts associated with heavy rain will drag high-altitude cooler air towards the surface, cooling the surface layers. So, we have established that the Sun primarily heats the Earth's surface, which then, by various processes, heats the atmosphere from below. We stated that this is the reason the temperature generally falls with increasing height.